They say a mother's love is unconditional, but what happens when that love is weaponized against you? When my son's wife handed me an ultimatum, become their unpaid servant or get out of my own home, I did something she never expected. I smiled, packed my bags, and walked past their moving boxes without saying a word. But that wasn't surrender. It was strategy. 2 weeks later, I returned with someone who would change everything. This is my story of how I learned that sometimes the quietest response is the most powerful one. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear if you've faced similar family betrayals. My name is Patricia Morrison, and at 68 years old, I thought I'd seen it all. I was wrong. What happened next taught me that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, even when it's against your own family. The smell of pot roast filled my kitchen that October evening, when everything changed. I'd been cooking Nathan's favorite meal, the same recipe his father loved before the cancer took him 5 years ago. The front door slammed harder than usual, and I knew something was different even before Rebecca marched into my kitchen. "We need to talk," she announced, not bothering with hello. Nathan trailed behind her, his eyes fixed on his shoes like he was 12 again, caught sneaking cookies before dinner. "Of course, dear, dinner's almost ready. Would you like some wine?" I offered, wiping my hands on my apron. "No." Rebecca pulled out a kitchen chair, its legs scraping against the linoleum I'd chosen 30 years ago. "Sit down, Patricia." In my own kitchen, being ordered to sit. I should have seen it coming. The past year had been full of small power plays. Rebecca rearranging my living room, deciding what groceries I could buy, even dictating when I could have friends over. But I'd made excuses. She was stressed from work. They were saving for a baby. Nathan was happy. "Mom, please sit." Nathan finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I sat, still holding the dish towel, my hands suddenly cold despite the warm kitchen. "This isn't working," Rebecca stated. "You living here, contributing nothing while we pay all the bills. It's not fair to Nathan." Contributing nothing? I'd given them this house, transferred the deed last year when Rebecca convinced me it would save on taxes. I cooked, cleaned, did their laundry, but I held my tongue, waiting. "So here's what's going to happen. Either you start earning your keep, real work, on our schedule, or you find somewhere else to live. You have 2 weeks to decide." I looked at my son, hoping he'd defend me. He couldn't meet my eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered through the house my husband Robert and I had bought in 1987, running my fingers along walls that held 37 years of memories. The pencil marks on the doorframe where we'd measured Nathan's height, the scratch on the hardwood from when he'd tried to roller skate indoors, the window seat where Robert had proposed we try for another baby, though that blessing never came. After Robert died, the life insurance barely covered his medical bills, but it left enough for me to keep the house. I'd worked double shifts at the hospital, my nurse's salary stretching to cover Nathan's college. No vacations, no new clothes, driving the same Honda until it died at 200,000 miles, everything for Nathan. When he married Rebecca 3 years ago, I was thrilled. She was charming, accomplished, a financial advisor who seemed to have everything together. When they moved in temporarily to save for a house, I welcomed them with open arms. When Rebecca suggested the deed transfer last year, talking about tax benefits and protecting assets, I signed without hesitation. Nathan was my only child. Everything I had would be his anyway. But something felt off about those papers Nathan had signed. Rebecca had rushed me, saying the notary was only available that day. I'd been recovering from a hip replacement, foggy from pain medication. She'd pointed where to sign, her manicured nail tapping impatiently on each line. That's when I remembered what Robert always said. "Keep copies of everything, Patricia. You never know when you'll need them." His old filing cabinet was in the basement, locked and forgotten. Rebecca didn't even know it existed. I pulled on my robe and headed downstairs, my hip protesting each step. Whatever was in that cabinet, I needed to see it before making any decisions. The next morning, Rebecca was waiting at the kitchen table with a typed document. "I've made this easy for you," she said, sliding the paper across to me. "Your new household duties, should you choose to stay." My hands trembled as I read, "Wake at 5 a.m. to prepare breakfast. Clean all bathrooms daily, laundry sorted, washed, dried, folded, and put away by noon. Grocery shopping only with pre-approved lists. Dinner on the table by 6 p.m. sharp. No guests without permission. No use of the living room after 8 p.m. No phone calls during family time." "This is," I started. "Fair," Rebecca interrupted. "Room and board in exchange for household services. It's more than generous considering your age." Considering my age. I was 68, not 88. I still volunteered at the library, walked 3 miles every morning, played bridge with friends every Thursday. Or I used to, before Rebecca started finding problems with my absences. "What about my doctor appointments, my volunteer work?" "You'll need to request time off, in writing, 48 hours in advance." Nathan sat beside her, silent. His hands were folded on the table, wedding ring catching the morning light. When had my boy become this stranger who wouldn't look at me? "And if I don't agree?" I asked quietly. Rebecca smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Then you'll need to vacate by November 1st. That gives you 13 days. I noticed she'd already been documenting things. A notebook sat beside her, dates and times recorded. Patricia left dishes in sink, 10:12. Patricia had unauthorized guest, 10:08. Patricia used premium coffee brands, 10:15. She had no idea I'd been documenting everything too. Every cruel word, every financial manipulation, every time she'd isolated me from friends. My journal was safer than her notebook, hidden where she'd never think to look. That afternoon, I found Nathan in the garage, pretending to organize tools that were already perfectly arranged. Robert's tools, which Nathan had never learned to use properly. "We need to talk," I said, closing the door behind me. He flinched. "Mom, please don't make this harder." "Harder? Nathan, she's treating me like a servant in my own home, the home I gave you." "It's not your home anymore." His voice cracked. "You signed it over, remember? To help you, not to be kicked out." Finally, he looked at me, and I saw tears in his eyes. "You don't understand. Rebecca, she controls everything. The bank accounts, the credit cards. I'm in debt, Mom, serious debt. She says she's fixing it, but I need her. Without her, I'll lose everything." "What kind of debt?" "Gambling." The word came out as a whisper. "Online sports betting. It started small, but—" Rebecca found out. She paid it off, but now she holds it over me. Says if I don't support her decisions, she'll leave and demand repayment. $50,000, Mom. My heart broke. This wasn't the boy I'd raised. "Nathan, that's financial abuse. We can get help." "No!" He grabbed my shoulders, fear wild in his eyes. "You don't understand. The house papers, there's something about them. Rebecca said if you cause trouble, you'll lose more than just a place to live. She has plans, Mom. Just, please, take the deal or leave quietly. For both our sakes." "What do you mean, the house papers?" But he was already walking away, shoulders hunched like he was carrying the world. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." That's when I knew I had to leave, but not forever. Rebecca had underestimated me, thinking I was just a helpless old woman. She was about to learn differently. I packed methodically, each folded sweater a small act of defiance. Rebecca stood in my doorway, arms crossed, watching like a prison guard. "Don't take anything that doesn't belong to you," she warned. "Everything in this room belongs to me," I replied calmly, wrapping Robert's picture in tissue paper. "Not the furniture. That stays with the house." The bedroom set Robert and I had saved for, our first purchase as newlyweds. Apparently that wasn't mine anymore either. I bit my tongue and continued packing only clothes and personal items. Outside, I could see Mrs. Chen watching from her garden, pretending to trim roses that didn't need trimming. Mr. Thompson across the street had stopped washing his car, soap drying in streaks as he stared. The whole neighborhood was watching my humiliation. "Where will you go?" Nathan asked from the hallway, not brave enough to enter the room. "I have friends," I lied. Most of my friends had been pushed away by Rebecca's constant excuses for why I couldn't see them. Before leaving the bedroom, I opened the safe hidden behind Robert's portrait. Rebecca's eyes lit up, probably expecting jewelry or cash. Instead, I pulled out a manila envelope thick with papers. Her expression shifted to suspicion. "What's that?" "Personal documents. Birth certificate, medical records. All true, though not the complete truth. The real treasures were underneath, copies of every document related to the house, including some Rebecca had never seen. I wheeled my suitcase past the moving boxes in the hallway, boxes Rebecca had already brought in, so confident I would leave. She'd even labeled one Patricia's room future nursery. At the door, I turned back once. "I love you, Nathan," I said. He was crying now, but still said nothing. Rebecca had no idea what I'd just taken from that safe. She'd won this round, but the game wasn't over. The Sunset Inn motel smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams. $60 a night was all I could afford, my Social Security check already stretched thin. I sat on the threadbare bedspread and finally let myself cry, deep, shaking sobs that I'd held back for months. When the tears stopped, I spread the documents from the safe across the bed. Robert's meticulous filing system had saved everything: the original deed, the transfer papers, property tax records going back decades. Under the harsh fluorescent light, I studied each page like my life depended on it. Because it did. The deed transfer document Rebecca had rushed me to sign, something was wrong with it. The signature date showed October 15, 2023, but I distinctly remembered signing it in September. My hip surgery had been September 20th. I'd signed those papers on September 18th, before the surgery, not after. Why would Rebecca change the date? I pulled out the property tax records. There it was, a life estate notation filed with the county in 1987, when Robert and I first bought the house. We'd set it up on our lawyer's advice, ensuring that if one of us died, the other could never be forced from the home. It was ironclad, requiring specific legal procedures to dissolve. Wait, this signature on the transfer, it was supposed to be witnessed by 2 people. But the second witness signature? I held it up to the light. The ink color was different, slightly bluer than the rest, and the handwriting looked familiar. Too familiar. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. Harold Whitman's number was still in my contacts, though I hadn't called Robert's old law partner since the funeral. It was past 9 p.m., but this couldn't wait. "Harold, it's Patricia Morrison. I need your help." Harold Whitman's office hadn't changed in 20 years. Same leather chairs, same diplomas on the wall, same photo of him and Robert on their fishing trip to Lake Superior. At 72, Harold still commanded respect in his 3-piece suit, his eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Patricia, I've been worried about you," he said, pouring coffee from a silver pot. "Robert would be rolling in his grave if he knew you were living in a motel." "That's why I'm here." I pushed the documents across his mahogany desk. Something's not right with these papers. Harold put on his reading glasses, studying each page with the intensity that had made him Minnesota's best estate lawyer. His frown deepened with every document. "Patricia, this deed transfer is problematic." "How problematic?" "Did you have independent legal counsel when you signed this?" "Rebecca said we didn't need lawyers. It was just a family transfer," she said, "for tax purposes." Harold's face darkened. "Rebecca is a financial advisor, correct? She knows better. Patricia, you have a life estate on this property. It's been recorded with the county for 37 years. This transfer doesn't properly address that." "What does that mean?" "It means you have the legal right to live in that house until you die. No one, not Nathan, not Rebecca, no one, can force you out. This transfer document tries to override that without following proper procedures. It's legally questionable at best, fraudulent at worst." My heart pounded. "So I can go home?" "More than that. Patricia, look at this witness signature." He held up a magnifying glass. "This appears to be forged, and the date discrepancy you noticed? That's significant. If Rebecca changed dates to make it seem like you signed this after your surgery while impaired by medication, that would be elder abuse," I finished. "Exactly. Patricia, there's something else about this life estate that Rebecca doesn't know about." Harold pulled out a thick legal book, its pages marked with decades of yellow sticky notes. "When Robert and I set up your life estate, we added something special. We called it a poison pill clause. A what? If anyone tries to fraudulently remove you from the property, they automatically forfeit all rights to it. The house would revert entirely to you, cutting out any other claim holders. I stared at him. You mean, if we can prove Rebecca committed fraud or elder abuse in obtaining this transfer, she and Nathan could lose everything. The house would be yours alone, free and clear. But Nathan, I don't want to hurt my son. Your son is letting his wife abuse you. But here's the interesting part. If Nathan can prove he was coerced or manipulated, he might maintain some claim. It would depend on his level of involvement. Harold turned to his computer, typing rapidly. Let me check something. Rebecca Thompson Morrison, financial advisor. His expression changed. Patricia, has Rebecca ever had access to your personal information? Social security number? Bank accounts? Well, yes. She helped me set up online banking last year. More typing. Then Harold's face went pale. Patricia, there are 3 credit cards in your name that you didn't open, are there? Credit cards? No, I only have one and I barely use it. These were opened in the last 18 months. Total debt, $37,000. Cash advances mostly. The payments are being made from an account that... Interesting. The account is in Nathan's name, but the deposits match Rebecca's pay schedule. My stomach dropped. She stole my identity? It appears so. This changes everything. This isn't just about a house anymore. This could be federal charges. But there's more. The way Rebecca got this transfer, combined with the identity theft. Patricia, she's done this before. I know some of you might be thinking I should have just confronted them right away. But when you're 68 and facing your own family's betrayal, you learn that wisdom sometimes means playing the long game. If you've ever felt powerless in your own home, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support means everything to someone like me who thought I was alone in this fight. I see your comments coming in. Martha from Texas, David from Oregon, Susan from Florida. You're all giving me strength. Some of you have shared similar stories, and my heart breaks for you. But we're not victims, we're survivors. Now let me tell you what Harold discovered that changed everything. The next week was a whirlwind of quiet preparation. Harold assembled a team, a forensic accountant, a private investigator, and a specialist in elder law. We're building an airtight case, he assured me. The forensic accountant, a sharp woman named Jennifer, uncovered more than we expected. The credit cards are just the tip, she explained, spreading bank statements across Harold's conference table. There are also 2 personal loans, one for $50,000, another for $25,000. All in your name, Patricia. All funneled to accounts controlled by Rebecca. How did I not know? She had everything sent to a P.O. box. Changed your address with these specific creditors, but not others, so you'd never suspect. It's sophisticated fraud. Meanwhile, the private investigator, Tom, had been busy. Your neighbors have been very helpful, he said, producing a folder of statements. Mrs. Chen has been particularly observant. I read Mrs. Chen's statement, tears forming. She'd documented every time Rebecca had berated me in the yard, every time I'd been locked out and had to wait on the porch, every cruel comment she'd overheard. Patricia is like family to us, she'd written. Watching her treatment has been heartbreaking. 7 neighbors had provided affidavits. Mr. Thompson had photos of me sitting on my suitcase on the lawn, waiting for a taxi while Rebecca watched from the window. The Johnsons had recorded Rebecca screaming at me about being a burden. Even the teenage Parker boy had written about seeing me cry in the garden. This is powerful, Harold said. But we need one more thing, something that shows Rebecca knew exactly what she was doing. That's when Tom smiled. Check her social media from last night. Rebecca had posted in a private financial advisors group asking about elderly housing options for difficult in-laws and how to maximize property value after removing life estates. She'd just given us everything we needed. Rebecca's Facebook page had become a goldmine of evidence. Behind her privacy settings, which Tom had legally accessed through the discovery process, she'd been documenting her plans for months. Finally got the old bat out, she'd posted the day I left, complete with champagne emojis. The comments from her friends were equally damning. "About time. How did you manage it?" one asked. Rebecca's reply, "Let's just say I know how to handle paperwork." But the worst was yet to come. She'd posted photos of my room with the caption, "Future nursery or rental income, $1,500 month easy." The comments showed she'd already been talking to potential renters, promising availability by November 1st. Tom had printed everything. "This one's particularly interesting," he said, pointing to a post from 3 months ago. Rebecca had shared an article titled, "How to Legally Remove Elderly Parents from Your Home," with the comment, "Research for a friend, wink." "She planned this," I whispered. "For at least 6 months, based on the digital trail," Tom confirmed. She also searched for cheapest assisted living facilities in Minnesota and can you force someone into a nursing home. Patricia, she wasn't just planning to kick you out. She was researching how to have you declared incompetent. Harold leaned forward. "There's more. Remember those loans in your name? We traced where the money went. Rebecca used it to pay off her own student loans and credit cards. She also made a down payment on a vacation property in Wisconsin, in her name only. Nathan doesn't know about any of this?" "Based on his credit report and financial records, no. He's as much a victim as you are in some ways. She's destroyed his credit too, just more carefully. Everything traceable leads back to him, not her." Rebecca thought she'd covered her tracks. She was about to learn what happens when you underestimate a mother's determination. Mrs. Chen appeared at my motel room door with a casserole and determination in her eyes. "Patricia, we need to talk." Behind her stood Mr. Thompson, the Johnsons, and even young Tyler Parker with his mother. They filed into my tiny room, filling it with the warmth I'd missed for months. "We've been talking," Mrs. Chen began, her slight accent thick with emotion. "What that woman did to you, we can't stand by anymore." Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "I've been recording things, Patricia. Not to be nosy, but, well, I have security cameras. They picked up audio from your front yard. That day she locked you out for 3 hours in the rain? I have it all." 3 hours? Mrs. Johnson gasped. "We only saw the end of it." "There's more," Tyler's mother Sarah added. "Tyler heard Rebecca on the phone last week talking about putting you in some state-run facility. She was laughing about it, Patricia, laughing about how she'd have you committed if you caused trouble." Tyler, all of 16 and usually glued to his phone, looked up. "I recorded it, Mrs. M. Mom said I should. It's all uploaded to the cloud, date and time stamped. These people, some I'd barely spoken to in recent months thanks to Rebecca's isolation tactics, had been watching out for me all along." "There's something else," Mrs. Chen said quietly. "My daughter is a nurse at Mercy Hospital. Rebecca's been there, asking questions about your medical history, claiming to be your healthcare proxy. She's been trying to get your records, looking for anything about mental health, confusion, dementia symptoms. But I don't have any of those issues." "We know, but she's trying to build a case. Patricia, she's planning something bigger than just taking your house. 7 neighbors, 7 witnesses, 7 people ready to testify." Rebecca had made one crucial mistake. She'd forgotten that cruelty has witnesses, and in a neighborhood like ours, those witnesses remember everything. My phone rang at midnight, Nathan's name glowing in the darkness. I almost didn't answer, but a mother's heart never truly gives up on her child. "Mom?" His voice was slurred, broken. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Nathan, are you drunk?" "Little bit. Rebecca's at her sister's tonight. Mom, I need to tell you something." I could hear him crying. "She's already spending money. Your room. She's already spent the rental deposits, $3,000, bought new furniture, designer stuff." "Nathan, that's not all. Mom, she's planning to sell the house. Once you're gone long enough, she says we can claim abandonment. She has a buyer lined up, cash offer, quick close. She'll make maybe $400,000, and she's already planning to leave me once it's done." My heart shattered. "How do you know?" "I saw the divorce papers in her briefcase, post-dated for January, after the house sale would close. Mom, she played me. She played us both." "Come to the motel, Nathan. We'll figure this out." No, no, she tracks my phone, my car. She has cameras in the house now. Mom, she's watching everything. She even—" His voice dropped to a whisper. "She even has recordings of me from when I was gambling online. Says she'll release them to my employer if I don't cooperate. I'll lose my teaching job." "Nathan, that's blackmail." "I know. Mom, don't come back here. It's not safe. She's got someone coming tomorrow, some doctor she knows. She's going to try to have you evaluated if you show up. Say you're having a mental break. She's got papers ready, witnesses lined up, people she's paying." "Nathan, I need you to listen carefully. Do you still have access to the safe?" "Yeah, why?" "There's a blue folder in the back. Don't take it. Just photograph every page. Can you do that?" "Mom, what are you planning?" "Justice, son. Just justice." Harold's conference room felt like a war room that morning. Jennifer had her financial reports, Tom had his surveillance evidence, and now we had Nathan's photographs. The blue folder contained Robert's original will, explicitly stating the house could never be sold without my written consent, witnessed by 3 parties. "This is it," Harold announced. "We file today. Emergency motion for elder abuse protection, identity theft charges, fraud, and enforcement of the life estate." "What about Nathan?" I asked. "We list him as a victim, not a perpetrator. The evidence supports that Rebecca manipulated and blackmailed him. The gambling debt, the job threats, that's coercion." The courthouse was busier than I expected. Harold guided me through security, his hand steady on my elbow. "Judge Eleanor Hayes is hearing our case," he said. "She's tough but fair. Lost her own mother to elder abuse 5 years ago." The filing was thick. Nearly 200 pages of evidence. The clerk's eyes widened as she read the summary. Elder abuse, identity theft, fraud. She looked up at me with sympathy. "Judge Hayes will want to see this immediately. Can you wait?" We waited 3 hours. 3 hours of my heart pounding, my hands shaking, my mind racing through every possible outcome. Then the clerk returned. "Judge Hayes will see you in chambers. Now." The judge was a striking woman in her 60s, silver hair pulled back severely, reading glasses perched on her nose. She'd already reviewed our filing. "Mrs. Morrison," she began, her voice gentle but firm, "I've seen many elder abuse cases. This is one of the most egregious. The evidence is overwhelming." She turned to Harold. "I'm granting an emergency ex parte order. Mrs. Morrison has immediate right to return to her home. We'll have a full hearing in 72 hours, but based on what I'm seeing, Mrs. Thompson Morrison needs to vacate immediately." "Your Honor," Harold said, "there's also the matter of potential flight risk." Judge Hayes nodded grimly. "I'm issuing an asset freeze on Rebecca Thompson Morrison's accounts, effective immediately." The emergency hearing happened faster than expected. Judge Hayes had cleared her schedule, declaring the case urgent due to ongoing financial crimes. Rebecca hadn't been notified yet. This was just to establish immediate protections. "Mrs. Morrison," Judge Hayes addressed me directly, "I need you to understand what we're dealing with here. The forensic accounting shows systematic theft exceeding $150,000. The identity theft crosses state lines, making this a federal matter. This is one of the clearest cases of elder financial abuse I've seen in my 20 years on the bench." The assistant district attorney, a young woman named Melissa Crawford, spoke next. "Your Honor, we're prepared to file criminal charges. The evidence Mr. Whitman has provided shows a pattern of deliberate, premeditated fraud. We've also discovered this isn't Mrs. Thompson Morrison's first involvement in such schemes." My heart stopped. "What?" "There was a case in Wisconsin 4 years ago, an elderly aunt. Charges were dropped when the aunt suddenly refused to testify. She died 6 months later in a nursing home." Harold squeezed my hand under the table. Judge Hayes continued reviewing documents, her expression growing darker. "The forged signatures, the hidden debt, the attempt to have Mrs. Morrison declared incompetent. This woman is dangerous." "Your Honor," Harold interjected, "we're requesting immediate enforcement of the life estate, removal of Rebecca Thompson Morrison from the property, and a restraining order." "Granted, granted, and granted." The judge's gavel came down hard. "Deputies will serve papers today. Mrs. Morrison, you can return home immediately with police escort. Mrs. Thompson Morrison will have 4 hours to collect personal belongings under supervision. What about my son? Judge Hayes' expression softened. The evidence shows he's a victim too. No charges will be filed against Nathan Morrison at this time, pending his cooperation with the investigation. Now, she said, standing, let's go get your home back. 2 weeks had passed since I'd rolled my suitcase out of my own home. Now I stood outside that same door, but everything was different. Behind me stood Deputy Sarah Martinez, Harold Whitman, and Tom, who'd insisted on documenting everything. You ready for this, Patricia? Harold asked. I smoothed my best dress, the navy one Robert had loved. I've been ready for 2 weeks. Deputy Martinez had already briefed me on the procedure. I'll serve the papers. You don't have to say anything. If she becomes aggressive, we leave immediately and return with backup. She'll be aggressive, I assured her. Harold pulled out one more document. Patricia, there's something else. Remember the Wisconsin case? The elderly aunt left a sealed deposition before she died. It was just unsealed yesterday. Rebecca's real name isn't Rebecca Thompson. What? It's Rachel Thornton. She's been using variations of the same identity for years. Thompson, Thomason, now Thompson Morrison. Always targeting elderly relatives or in-laws. Always through marriage or family connection. My finger hesitated over the doorbell. 2 weeks ago, I'd left in humiliation. Now I was returning with the full force of the law behind me. Oh, Harold added with a slight smile, Judge Hayes will be calling in exactly 30 minutes. She wants to speak with Rebecca personally about the federal charges. Through the window, I could see Rebecca in my kitchen, wearing my apron, cooking with my pots. Nathan was nowhere to be seen. Harold had made sure he was at work, safe from the confrontation. I could hear Rebecca inside, on the phone, laughing. The old bat's been gone 2 weeks. I told you I could handle it. By Christmas, we'll have the cash from the house sale. Deputy Martinez nodded at me. Ring it. I pressed the doorbell, the familiar chime echoing through my home. It was time to reclaim what was mine. The door swung open, and Rebecca's smile froze. She was wearing my apron, the one Nathan had given me for Mother's Day 10 years ago. Her phone was still pressed to her ear, and I could hear someone asking, "Who is it?" through the speaker. "Hello, Rebecca," I said calmly. "I believe you're in my house." Her eyes darted from me to Deputy Martinez, to Harold, to Tom with his camera. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the hardwood floor Robert had installed himself. "You can't be here," she stammered. "This is trespassing. You abandoned the property. I have rights." "Ma'am," Deputy Martinez stepped forward, her badge prominent. "I'm Deputy Martinez with the sheriff's office. I have court orders to serve you." Rebecca tried to slam the door, but Deputy Martinez's boot was already blocking it. "Ma'am, I strongly advise against that. These are legal documents from Judge Eleanor Hayes. You're required to accept them." "I want my lawyer." "You'll have time to call them," Deputy Martinez said evenly, handing Rebecca the thick envelope. "This is an emergency protection order for elder abuse, an eviction notice giving you 4 hours to vacate, and a restraining order. You're also hereby notified that your assets have been frozen pending investigation of identity theft and fraud." Rebecca's face cycled through emotions. Shock, rage, then a calculating coldness I'd seen before. "This is ridiculous. I'm Nathan's wife. This is our home." "Actually," Harold spoke up, "it's Patricia's home. The life estate was never legally dissolved. Your fraudulent attempt to override it has been documented and reported to the district attorney." "Nathan agreed to everything," Rebecca shrieked. "Under duress and blackmail," Harold replied smoothly. "We have evidence of that too." Rebecca's mask finally cracked completely. The polished financial advisor was gone, replaced by someone I'd never seen before, someone desperate and cornered. "You bitter old woman," she hissed at me. "You couldn't just die quietly, could you?" The look on Rebecca's face at that moment, I'll never forget it. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. If you believe that elders deserve respect and protection from financial abuse, please share this video. Someone out there might need to hear that it's never too late to fight back. I see your comments flooding in. Mary from Michigan, James from Arizona, Linda from New York. Your stories of similar abuse are heartbreaking but also inspiring. We're not alone in this fight. And please comment below if you've witnessed elder abuse. We need to talk about this more. The shame should be on the abusers, not the victims. Now let me tell you what happened when Rebecca tried to slam that door. Deputy Martinez maintained her professional composure as Rebecca's attempts to close the door became more frantic. "Ma'am, you need to read these documents. You have 72 hours to respond to the court, but you must vacate these premises within 4 hours." 4 hours? Rebecca's voice pitched higher. "That's impossible. My things, Nathan's things." "Personal belongings only," Deputy Martinez clarified. "Furniture, household items, and anything purchased for the homestays. You'll be supervised while packing." Tom stepped forward with his camera. "This is being documented for the court record, Mrs. Thompson Morrison. Or should I say, Ms. Thornton?" Rebecca went white. "How did you—" "Your Wisconsin history is quite interesting," Harold said. "Judge Hayes was particularly intrigued by the similarities to the case involving Mrs. Dorothy Thornton, your late husband's aunt." "Nathan!" Rebecca screamed into the house. "Nathan, get out here!" "He's at work," I said quietly. "He doesn't know we're here." "You turned my husband against me." "No," I replied, finding strength I didn't know I had. "You did that yourself when you blackmailed him, destroyed his credit, and planned to divorce him after stealing our home." Deputy Martinez opened the court documents. "Mrs. Thompson Morrison, this section here requires immediate attention. You're prohibited from accessing any accounts in Patricia Morrison's name, including those credit cards and loans you fraudulently opened." "I don't know what you're talking about." "The forensic accounting report suggests otherwise," Harold said. $157,000 in fraudulent debt. The FBI's Elder Justice Initiative has been notified." Rebecca grabbed her phone from the floor, frantically dialing. "I need my lawyer here now," she barked into it. Then, looking at me with pure hatred, "You have 72 hours. In 72 hours, I'll bury you in court." "Actually," Harold smiled, "you have 4 hours. The 72 hours is for your court response. The eviction is effective immediately." Rebecca's composure shattered completely. She threw the papers at Deputy Martinez's feet, her face contorted with rage. "You can't do this. I have rights. I've been living here, paying bills, taking care of this property while she abandoned it." "Ma'am, throwing legal documents at an officer is not advisable," Deputy Martinez said, her hand moving to her radio. "Do I need to call for backup?" "Call whoever you want," Rebecca screamed. "This is harassment, elder abuse. I'm the one who's been abused, living with this manipulative old woman, cooking, cleaning, managing everything while she sat around doing nothing." The neighbors had started gathering. Mrs. Chen stood in her driveway, phone raised, recording everything. Mr. Thompson had walked over, standing just outside the property line. The Johnsons, the Parkers, even the usually reclusive Mr. Garrett, they all watched Rebecca's meltdown. "You want to know the truth?" Rebecca spun to face the gathering crowd. "She's senile, confused. She signed those papers willingly, then forgot. I've been protecting Nathan from his mother's declining mental state." "That's interesting," Tom said, still filming, "because we have your social media posts celebrating getting the old bat out. Your exact words." Rebecca lunged at Tom's camera, but Deputy Martinez stepped between them. "Ma'am, step back, now." "I'll sue all of you. Defamation, harassment, false imprisonment." "You'll have your day in court," Harold said calmly. "In fact, you have several days in court coming up. Federal court for the identity theft, state court for the elder abuse, civil court for the fraud. Oh, and the IRS is very interested in those unreported rental deposits you've already collected." That stopped her cold. "How did you know about—" "Nathan!" a voice called from the street. We all turned to see Nathan's car pulling up, though he wasn't supposed to be here. He got out slowly, his face pale but determined. "I couldn't stay away," he said to me, then turned to his wife. "Rebecca, it's over." Nathan walked past Rebecca like she wasn't there, coming straight to me. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He pulled a USB drive from his pocket and handed it to Harold. "Everything's on there. Her emails, the real financial records, recordings of her threatening me." "Nathan, what are you doing?" Rebecca's rage turned to panic. "We're married. You can't testify against me." "Actually, I can," Nathan said, his voice stronger than I'd heard it in years. "Spousal privilege doesn't apply to crimes committed against third parties. You taught me that, remember? When you were explaining how we could get away with taking Mom's house. You agreed to everything. You signed papers, too. Under duress. You threatened to destroy my career, release those gambling videos to the school board. But here's what you didn't know, Rebecca. I've been recording you, too. Every threat, every manipulation, every time you laughed about putting Mom in a state facility." He turned to Deputy Martinez. "I want to file a report. Blackmail, extortion, coercion." Rebecca's lawyer arrived then, a sharp-dressed man who took one look at the scene. The deputy, the cameras, the crowd of neighbors, Harold's confident stance, and immediately pulled Rebecca aside. "Don't say another word," he hissed at her. "Tell them." Rebecca grabbed his arm. "Tell them they can't do this." The lawyer reviewed the papers quickly, his face growing more concerned with each page. "Rebecca, we need to leave, now." "I'm not leaving my home." "It's not your home," Nathan said quietly. "It never was. Mom, I know about the life estate. I always knew. Rebecca convinced me it didn't matter, that we could work around it. I was weak, Mom. I let her control me because I was ashamed of my debts, my failures. But I choose you. I choose my mother." Rebecca stared at him in shock. "You're destroying us for her?" "No, Rebecca. You destroyed us the moment you decided to abuse my mother." Rebecca's lawyer was frantically making phone calls while Deputy Martinez supervised Rebecca's packing. But Tom had discovered something on his phone that changed everything. "Harold, you need to see this," he said urgently. "I just got a call from my contact at the credit bureau. There are 6 more victims." "What?" I gasped. 6 other elderly people with credit cards and loans opened in their names, all traced back to IP addresses associated with Rebecca's devices. Total fraud exceeding $800,000. Rebecca, who was being escorted upstairs by Deputy Martinez, heard this and tried to run back down. "That's impossible! You're making this up!" Her lawyer grabbed her arm. "Rebecca, stop talking, please." Harold immediately called Judge Hayes. I could hear her voice through the speaker. 800,000? This is now a federal case. I'm contacting the FBI immediately." Nathan sank onto the porch steps, his head in his hands. "Mom, there's more. Last month, she had me sign power of attorney papers, said it was for tax purposes, but I think she was planning to do this to me too." "Nathan, we need those papers," Harold said urgently. "They're in her office, the locked file cabinet." Deputy Martinez returned with Rebecca, who was carrying 2 suitcases. She tried to access a wall safe upstairs. I've sealed it pending investigation. "That safe has my jewelry," Rebecca protested. "My grandmother's rings." "Your grandmother?" Nathan laughed bitterly. "Rebecca, you told me your grandmother died when you were 5. Then last year, she died again when you needed time off work. How many grandmothers did you have?" The neighbors were recording everything. Mrs. Chen called out, "Patricia, we found something." She hurried over with her phone. "My daughter at the hospital. Rebecca was there yesterday trying to get commitment papers. She was claiming Patricia had dementia, trying to get a doctor to sign without even examining you." "Add attempted involuntary commitment to the charges," Harold told Deputy Martinez. The crowd of neighbors had grown to nearly 20 people. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his phone in hand. "Officers, we've been documenting everything for months. We have a shared folder, videos, photos, recordings." "You've been spying on us?" Rebecca shrieked. "No," Mrs. Chen said firmly. "We've been protecting Patricia. There's a difference." Tyler Parker's mother, Sarah, spoke up. "I have doorbell camera footage from the night you locked Patricia out during that thunderstorm. 2 hours in the rain, Rebecca. She's 68 years old." "And I have audio," Mr. Garrett added, surprising everyone since he rarely spoke to anyone. "My security system picked up you screaming at Patricia about being a burden, threatening to put her in the cheapest nursing home you could find." Deputy Martinez was taking notes rapidly. "You're all willing to provide these as evidence?" A chorus of yes rang out. Rebecca's lawyer tugged at her arm. "We're leaving, now!" But Mrs. Chen wasn't done. "Wait, there's one more thing." She pulled out her phone, scrolling to find something. Yesterday, Rebecca was in her backyard on the phone. She didn't know I was in my garden behind the fence. I recorded this. She hit play. Rebecca's voice filled the air. Once the old bag is committed, we can sell everything. Her jewelry, the antiques, even that stupid china she's always going on about. Nathan's too stupid to notice. I figure another $100,000, easy. Then I file for divorce and take half of everything else. The recording continued. The beauty is, once she's in a state facility, diagnosed with dementia, she can't contest anything. Even if she's perfectly lucid, no one listens to crazy old ladies in nursing homes. Nathan stood up slowly, his face dark with rage. You were going to have my mother committed? Steal everything she owned? Nathan, baby, that's taken out of context. We're done, Rebecca, completely done. Mrs. Chen had one more recording, and this one made even Rebecca's lawyer step back in shock. This is from last week, she said, hitting play on her phone. Rebecca's voice, clear and calculating. The morphine idea is perfect. Plant it in her room, call in an anonymous tip about the confused elderly woman hoarding pain meds. They'll assume she's stealing from her dead husband's old prescriptions. Instant 72-hour psych hold. And from there, it's easy to get guardianship. Another voice, female, unidentified. That's brilliant. How much are we talking once you have control? The house is worth $400,000, but there's more. Life insurance policies, retirement accounts, probably another $300,000. Plus, Nathan doesn't know his dad set up a trust. Patricia never told him. Another $500,000 there. A trust? Nathan looked at me, stunned. I nodded. Your father wanted to make sure you were protected, but the trust doesn't activate until I'm gone, or incapacitated. Harold immediately dialed someone. We need a warrant for that house, now. If there are drugs planted... Deputy Martinez was already on her radio. I need a K-9 unit at this location immediately. Rebecca's lawyer physically pulled her toward his car. Not another word, Rebecca. Not one word. Wait, Deputy Martinez said. She can't leave until we search her belongings. The search revealed 3 bottles of prescription medications in Rebecca's suitcase. None in her name. 2 were Robert's old prescriptions from 5 years ago, medications I thought had been destroyed. 1 was a bottle of morphine prescribed to someone named Dorothy Thornton. Dorothy Thornton, Tom said slowly. That was the aunt in Wisconsin who died. Rebecca's lawyer closed his eyes in defeat. I need to withdraw as counsel. This is beyond my scope. You can't abandon me, Rebecca screamed. I'm a tax attorney, Rebecca. You told me this was about property disputes. This is attempted murder. Within an hour, the house was swarming with law enforcement, FBI agents, state police, the K-9 unit. Rebecca sat in the back of Deputy Martinez's patrol car, her designer outfit wrinkled, her perfect makeup streaked with tears of rage, not remorse. A new lawyer arrived, a criminal defense attorney who looked exhausted before he even started. After reviewing the evidence, he approached Harold and me. Mrs. Morrison, I'm David Brennan. I'll be representing Ms. Thompson Morrison. The federal prosecutor is prepared to file charges for interstate fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. The state is adding elder abuse, attempted kidnapping, and drug possession charges. Kidnapping? I asked. The plan to forcibly commit you constitutes conspiracy to commit kidnapping under Minnesota law. Combined with the planted drugs, we're looking at 25 to life. Nathan stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder. What about me? Am I going to be charged? The FBI agent in charge, Special Agent Rodriguez, shook her head. Mr. Morrison, you're listed as a victim and witness. Your cooperation is appreciated. The evidence clearly shows coercion and blackmail. Through the patrol car window, I could see Rebecca screaming, though no sound escaped. Her world had collapsed in less than 2 hours. There's more, Agent Rodriguez continued. We've connected her to 12 cases across 4 states. She's been doing this for 15 years, targeting elderly relatives through marriage or fake relationships. Total fraud exceeds $2 million. $2 million? Nathan whispered. Your mother's case broke it wide open. the evidence you both provided, the community support, the documentation. It's the strongest case we've built against a serial elder abuse perpetrator." Harold turned to me. "Patricia, you're not just getting your home back, you're saving dozens of other potential victims." But I was looking at Nathan, my son who'd finally found his courage. I already got back what mattered most. As the FBI agents prepared to transport Rebecca to federal holding, she played her last desperate card. "Wait!" she screamed from the patrol car. "I'm pregnant! You can't do this to a pregnant woman!" Everyone froze. Deputy Martinez opened the car door. "Ma'am, are you claiming to be pregnant?" "Yes, 6 weeks. Nathan, tell them. We just found out last week." Nathan walked slowly to the car, his face unreadable. "Rebecca, stop. Tell them about the baby, Nathan. Our baby." Nathan looked at Deputy Martinez, then at me, then back at his wife. "Rebecca had her tubes tied 2 years ago. I drove her to the procedure myself. She said children would interfere with her career goals." "You're lying!" Rebecca screamed. "I have the medical records," Nathan said quietly. "You made me keep them for insurance purposes, remember? They're in the file cabinet with everything else." Agent Rodriguez made a note. "We'll verify with medical records. False claims to law enforcement add another charge." Rebecca's new lawyer put his head in his hands. "Rebecca, please stop talking." "You pathetic excuse for a man," Rebecca spat at Nathan. "No wonder I was leaving you. Gambling addict, mama's boy, can't even stand up for your wife." "You're right," Nathan said calmly. "I was pathetic. I let you abuse my mother. I let you steal from her. I let you isolate her from her friends. I stood by while you plotted to destroy her life. But not anymore." He pulled divorce papers from his jacket. "I filed these an hour ago. Irreconcilable differences and financial fraud. My attorney says the prenup you insisted on means you get nothing from me." "We don't have a prenup." "We do. You just don't remember because you were so focused on getting me to sign over Mom's house papers the same day. You signed it yourself, Rebecca. Your own greed was your downfall." The FBI agents finally loaded Rebecca into their vehicle. As they prepared to leave, a Mercedes pulled up. Rebecca's parents looking shell-shocked. Her mother, an elegant woman in her 70s, approached me with tears in her eyes. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm Helen Thompson, Rebecca's mother. I'm so sorry. We tried to warn Nathan when they got engaged, but Rebecca threatened to cut us off if we said anything." "You knew?" Nathan asked, stunned. Rebecca's father, a tired-looking man, nodded. "She did something similar to Helen's mother 15 years ago. We paid back the money, got her therapy, thought she'd changed. We should have spoken up." "Mom, Dad, don't you dare!" Rebecca screamed from the FBI vehicle. "You're supposed to support me." Helen turned to her daughter. "We'll get you a lawyer, Rebecca, but this ends now. No more victims." As the FBI vehicle pulled away, Rebecca's face in the window was the last I saw of her, twisted with rage, still screaming threats no one could hear. The neighbors began dispersing, each stopping to hug me or shake Nathan's hand. Mrs. Chen pressed a casserole into my hands. "For dinner. Welcome home, Patricia." Mr. Thompson clapped Nathan on the shoulder. "Takes a real man to stand up for what's right, son. Your father would be proud." Soon it was just Nathan, Harold, and me standing in front of my house. Our house, the house Robert and I had built our life in. "Mom," Nathan said, his voice breaking, "can you ever forgive me?" I looked at my son, broken, humbled, but finally free from Rebecca's control. "Forgiveness isn't given all at once, Nathan. It's earned day by day. But you're my son, and this is your home too. We'll figure it out." Harold smiled. "I'll file the paperwork to restore everything to how it should be. Patricia, you're safe now." But I was already walking toward my front door, key in hand, ready to reclaim my life. That first night back in my home, Nathan and I sat at the kitchen table where everything had started. The pot roast I'd been making that terrible October evening was long gone, but I made soup, Robert's mother's recipe, comfort food for difficult times. "Mom, I need help," Nathan said, staring into his bowl. "The gambling, the debts, the weakness. I don't know how I became this person. You're not the first person to be manipulated by someone they loved, I said gently. But you found your courage when it mattered. I almost let her destroy you. Almost. But you didn't. You recorded her. You gathered evidence. You chose to stand up. That's what matters now. Nathan pulled out a business card. Agent Rodriguez gave me this. It's a therapist who specializes in victims of emotional and financial abuse. I have an appointment tomorrow. I reached across the table and took his hand. I'm proud of you. How can you be? After everything? Because you're taking responsibility. You're getting help. You're becoming the man your father knew you could be. We talked until dawn. About Robert. About the good years before Rebecca. About the future. Nathan showed me the full extent of the financial damage. It was worse than I'd known. Rebecca had destroyed his credit, taken loans in his name, even sold his father's watch collection while telling him it was in storage. We'll fix it, I promised. Harold knows financial lawyers. We'll get through this together. I don't deserve your help. Nathan, you're my son. Love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to stand by someone even when they stumble. But this time, we do it with boundaries, with honesty. No more secrets. No more secrets, he agreed. Mom, I love you. I'm sorry I forgot that for a while. You didn't forget, you just got lost. Now you're finding your way home. Nathan's divorce attorney, Margaret Lawson, was thorough and ruthless. She'd handled cases involving financial fraud before, but even she was shocked by what we uncovered in Rebecca's hidden files. This woman was systematic, Margaret said, spreading documents across Harold's conference table. Nathan, she opened 14 credit cards in your name. She's been moving money through them for 2 years, creating a paper trail that makes you look like the fraudster. Can we prove it was her? Nathan asked. The IP addresses Tom traced help. The forged signatures are obvious once you know what to look for. But this prenup, this is golden. She was so arrogant, she actually included a fraud clause. If either party commits financial fraud, they forfeit all marital assets. She wrote that in? She thought she was protecting herself from you, Nathan. She knew about your gambling problem and wanted to ensure she'd get everything if you relapsed. Instead, she handed us the keys to protect you. I watched my son absorb this information, saw him straighten his shoulders. The man I'd raised was coming back, piece by piece. There's more, Margaret continued. The forensic accountant found offshore accounts. Rebecca's been hiding money for years. We're talking about $600,000, all stolen from her victims. Can we recover any of it? I asked. The FBI's working on it, but Patricia, you're first in line as the most recent victim with the strongest case. You should recover most of your losses. Nathan stood up, pacing to the window. I want to make this right, Mom. Not just the divorce, but everything. I want to help the other victims too. Margaret smiled. Actually, the FBI wants to talk to you about that. Your testimony could help them recover funds for all her victims. Then I'll do it. Every deposition, every court appearance, whatever it takes. The forensic accountant, Jennifer, called an emergency meeting. Her usual professional composure was shaken. I've found something disturbing. Rebecca's fraud goes deeper than we thought. She pulled up a spreadsheet on her laptop. Total debt in Patricia's name, $237,000. In Nathan's name, $428,000. But here's what's terrifying. She's been making minimum payments on everything to keep them from going into default, waiting for the right moment to let them all collapse at once. Why would she do that? Nathan asked. Bankruptcy fraud, Harold said grimly. She was planning to force both of you into bankruptcy, then swoop in as the helpful family member to buy your assets at pennies on the dollar. Jennifer nodded. She's got a shell company set up, RTC Investments, Rebecca Thompson Consulting. It's positioned to purchase distressed assets. Your house would have been sold to her own company for a fraction of its value. But she was planning to divorce me, Nathan protested. After the bankruptcy, Jennifer explained, after she'd secured all the assets. The divorce papers Tom found were post-dated for 3 months from now. By then, she'd own everything free and clear. I felt sick. She planned this for how long? based on the paper trail, at least 3 years. Before you even got married, Nathan, the gambling debts that started your problems? I found evidence she had access to your computer. She may have been placing those bets herself, using your accounts. Nathan sank into a chair. She created my addiction? She certainly fed it. Every time you tried to quit, there'd be a relapse that she'd discover. She was keeping you dependent on her. Harold was already on the phone with Agent Rodriguez. We need to add conspiracy to commit bankruptcy fraud to the charges. And cybercrimes. This is interstate racketeering. Agent Rodriguez called with shocking news. Patricia, we've found 17 victims across 6 states. Rebecca's been doing this since she was 22. Her real name is Rachel Marie Thornberry. Thornberry? She's been using variations of her name for 15 years. Thompson, Thornton, Thomason. Always close enough to remember, different enough to avoid detection. But here's the revelation. She learned this from her mother. I gasped. Helen? That elegant woman who apologized? Helen Thompson isn't her real name either. It's Helen Thornberry. She and her daughter have been running variations of this scheme for decades. The mother targets elderly men. The daughter targets elderly women through their sons. Nathan grabbed the phone. Are you saying Rebecca's parents are criminals too? Were. Helen's husband just flipped. He's been keeping records, hoping to get immunity. He says Helen forced him to participate, threatened to frame him if he didn't comply. Sound familiar, Nathan? It did. Rebecca had used the same playbook on my son. The Wisconsin aunt, Dorothy Thornton. She was Helen's victim, not Rebecca's. When she died, she left a video testimony hidden with her lawyer. It was just discovered. She knew she was being poisoned, but was too frightened to speak up while alive. Poisoned? I whispered. Small doses of antifreeze in her tea. Not enough to kill quickly, just enough to cause confusion, weakness. Made it easier to control her, get signatures. Dorothy figured it out, but knew no one would believe a confused old lady. My God, Harold breathed. Patricia, the tea Rebecca always made for you. I remembered the bitter taste I'd attributed to a new brand, the increasing confusion I'd felt before my hip surgery, the weakness that had made me more dependent on Rebecca's help. We need Patricia tested immediately, Agent Rodriguez said. If there's ethylene glycol in your system, that's attempted murder, Nathan finished, his face white with rage and horror. 6 months later, I stood in my kitchen preparing Sunday dinner. The house felt alive again, warm, welcoming, mine. Nathan was at the counter, chopping vegetables with the precision his father had taught him years ago. Mom, did you see the news? He asked, showing me his phone. Rebecca got 35 years federal, 25 years state, to run concurrently. No possibility of parole for 15 years. And Helen? Life without parole. 3 counts of murder in the first degree. They found evidence of 5 more victims. I nodded, feeling no satisfaction, just relief. It's over. The victims' fund dispersed last week, Nathan added. 14 families got restitution. You started something important, Mom. The doorbell rang, and Nathan went to answer it. I heard familiar voices. Mrs. Chen, the Thompsons, the Johnsons, my neighbors, my protectors, my friends. We brought dessert, Mrs. Chen announced, carrying her famous apple pie. And gossip. Did you hear the Parker's son got into MIT? As everyone gathered around my table, I thought about the journey that brought us here. The humiliation, the fear, the fight for justice. But mostly, I thought about resilience. Nathan stood to make a toast. To my mother, who taught me that strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up, even when someone you trust is the one who pushed you down. And to second chances, I added, looking at my son. To the courage to change, to seek help, to make amends. To neighbors who watch out for each other, Mrs. Chen added. To justice, Harold said, raising his glass of water. As we clinked glasses, I felt Robert's presence, proud of how we'd protected what he'd built. Sometimes love means letting them fall before helping them stand. Sometimes it means standing up to those who would tear you down. But always, always, it means knowing your worth. You know what I learned through all this? Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's necessary. If someone tries to steal your dignity, You don't owe them your silence. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helped you or someone you know, please share it. Subscribe if you believe our elders deserve respect and protection. And remember, it's never too late to stand up for yourself. What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments. This is Patricia, signing off with love and newfound strength.